Welcome to Pieces of Me, Fragments to Harmony at Tag Gallery.
Welcome to Pieces of Me, Fragments of Harmony.
Welcome to Pieces of Me, Fragments to Harmony at Tag Gallery.
So the three of us have known each other for several years, and we like each other's work, and we're all mixed media artists. And we have had many discussions about mixed media and how we work and things that work, things that don't work, things we're working on. And at some point in talking about all that, we realized that while we each have our own unique style and there's a lot of differences in our work, there's also a lot of things that overlap and a lot of aspects that are similar. And in all those discussions, the idea of a show came about.
To look around for where we could do a show and checked out different venues. And then Rebecca said, hey, there's this opportunity at Tag Gallery that I can curate one. So here we are.
It was kind of like an easy fit for all three of us. And like Rebecca has already said, that our works are like they speak to each other, but they're not the same. So it was kind of a natural fit.
I'll speak to my process. So for me, in my images, or very rarely do I use paint in my images. And I liken my style to painting with paper, because sort of like the Impressionists did, I use like just little bits of torn, reclaimed paper, primarily from old magazines. And I just keep layering and layering. Most people think that I have an enormous amount of patience. I don't think I do. I think it's actually a very organic process, because I just don't even know half the time what it's going to look like when I'm done. I just start building it up and layering it. And the layers of paper, the images, the colors and patterns pretty much inform me. They tell me what they want to be. If I'm staying open and true to the process, they will also tell me what colors and patterns they want to be. If I'm all up in my head, then it just feels wrong and false and forced. But that's pretty much how I work. It's just I start with a sketch, and everything else I just kind of let flow through me and layer and build up.
About that, the layers, I would say I do the exact same thing without paper. I do that with my paint. I start off with a layer of just a color that I want to see, or that I like to play with. And it's really meditative the way that I do it originally. And I have ideas. I usually have a sketchbook that has 3 or 4 different sketches of things that I want to portray in my work. And then, by the way that I'm layering paint on paint on paint I decide which one is going to be like this piece necessarily, or this face, or this person. And then more recently, I started using more and more paper in the work, because mine is more for the love of books, because I hate throwing away books, and I hate that nobody reads books as much anymore. So I feel like I need to save them somehow. And so I have great respect for the written word, so I've been incorporating it more and more and more in the work itself. So that's how that works for me, at least.
As far as I like the whole the theme of layers, because I think that's how I work too, in that I work mostly with paint and textured papers that have a lot of fiber in them, and most recently cardboard as well, I guess. But I treat the paper almost like a layer of paint. I don't really think about it. I think about it the way that I paint, in that I paint with layers, and I layer on top, and then I use the paper almost as glazing sometimes, or another layer of paint. And that's really how I think about it when I'm doing it. And I like the texture paper because it brings in all these accidental elements that I can't control, but really can turn the painting in a new direction that it was meant to go in, that I hadn't thought about. And it helps me kind of get out of my head a little bit about what it is that I'm painting. And so that's why I really like working with the paper, in that it brings a random aspect to it that really helps me kind of draw on things that I wouldn't have thought to draw on when I'm in the middle of planning it out or working on it.
I think, speaking to what both of you just said, that is something that's so beautiful about paper, is that it informs you as to what it wants to be. So you can't get all caught up in your head, and you can't get too exacting with it. And
Right.
It takes you, like you said, in new directions that you may not have thought of. And I think that's the key with art, is getting out of your head and down into your heart and letting the
Right.
art come from there. And that's when it's
Yeah.
successful.
Right. Letting the art lead you, letting the work lead you, instead of micromanaging the
Yeah.
painting to be something that's in your head. You really need to open it up and have it be more about kind of what you're thinking about, but also what you're feeling and the emotion that you bring into it, and having things in the painting while in your process that help you move it in a different direction that you didn't expect. Help for me is a really, it really helps me be a better painter.
Think of that, what Michelangelo said, how he carved until he set the figure free. Like when he talked about David was already living within the marble.
Yes.
And,
Right.
and you both kind of feel like that, because I do. Like when I'm working, it's like I don't know what my images are going to look like. I have an idea. I have sort of maybe like a sketch in mind, and I do a light sketch. But after that, it's just show me who you want to be.
Right.
And a lot of times I'm surprised.
Yeah, I'm the same. I start out usually with a figure that I like the emotion that it draws, or the way the figure is posed or something. And then once it's on, I transfer what I want to the canvas. Then all that you let go of all that, and then you let it go where it needs to go. Yeah, I think that's true. You just can't let it become precious. I've worked on pieces where I get them to a point, and then I'm like, worried about what I'm going to do next, because I'm worried I'm going to ruin it.
I think for me, what I find with paper is that you can always keep layering more. I can always just cover it up and add more paper.
I mean, and I think it's true in anything. You can always paint over something, start again, but I think the idea is you just can't be afraid to ruin something.
Yeah.
I think every work needs that time away from it. If, you have to, it's like finish for the day and come back and look at it in the morning, because then you'll see it differently, and it'll all, things that you are really confused about will become clearer once you've had some time away.
I don't know how you guys work as far as knowing when a piece is complete, but like for me, it tells me when it's complete, but it always has this thing, like if my eyes keep moving on the piece and I'm not getting snagged by any one spot, it's done. If something's still calling my eye, if something keeps catching my attention, then I have to do something about it. Like I want total movement when I'm looking at it.
Some pieces I think I'm done, and I've left them alone for 2 years. I've actually even shown them in an exhibit, and 2 years later I look at it, I said, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, I'll put it away, and when I pull it out for something else, I'm like, oh, this is so unfinished. And I see where it needs to keep going, and I'll just do it, and I'll just go to where it should have been in the first place. And I can see sometimes, like if a piece isn't complete enough and I put it in a show.
You're not always able, I mean, you're so close to the paintings that it's sometimes hard to tell if they're done. And sometimes it's just a feeling, like I'll have paintings where I just look at it, I mean, like, that's it. There's nothing left for me to do here. And then the other ones you look at and you think, I don't think there's anything left, but I've done it too, where I've taken a painting that I've had for a year or more, and it's been in a show because I thought it was done, and I'll look at it and I'll be like, you know what, I could make that better. And then you do.
It was done for the person you were at that moment.
Right.
Yeah. But not for who I am now. Yeah.
And the lucky thing about being artists is there's no law that says we can't go back and repaint it or paint over it and make it better, It's like it doesn't have to be, nothing has to be set in stone.
Name of the show, which we had talked about the last time, but the name, Pieces of Me, Fragments to Harmony. And I feel like that speaks so much to a lot of what's happening in the world right now, but also just life in general, because I think there's so many aspects to who we are, and every little bit and piece makes up who we are. So all those little bits of paper, all those brushstrokes, all the layers that exist in the background of the pieces and within the figures of the pieces, all of that is interconnected. All of those little bits that may seem disparate, once they come together, they so cohesively make up who we are. And so I think, I love the name of our show, the Fragments to Harmony, because really all those little fragments come together, they sing, they harmonize.
So in that respect, this was a good way to channel my energy and focus in a different way, and to be able to say that, you know, we still were able to coordinate and put something together even in these trying
Right.
times. So,
And
and I think we all represent a piece of hope in all our work, that there's something different and there's something unifying in all the work. So
and especially I liked when we were actually hanging the show and the way we put it together and the way the pieces
Yeah.
came together kind of just only reinforced kind of the relationship I think we all have. And
yeah, and it was really organic, just to say
Yeah.
that because of COVID, we couldn't hang out and really, you know, make pieces that were speaking to each other or doing any of those kinds
Right.
of things. So we were all working individually, and yet we were talking. So it was good to see that organically things kind of just worked out because we were
Right.
all in the same mental space.